The Master Closer, the architecture of persuasion. The history of human civilization is at its most fundamental level, a history of the exchange of value. Long before the invention of structured currency or global markets, human beings were negotiating for survival, trading labor for protection, and resources for tools. To truly master the art of buying and selling in the modern era, one must look past the superficial mechanics of a transaction and see the ancient biological and psychological impulses that drive every human interaction. Selling is not an act of convincing someone to want what they do not need. It is the sophisticated process of aligning a solution with a deep-seated human desire. Buying, conversely, is not merely the act of spending capital, it is the pursuit of transformation. No one buys a product for the sake of the object itself. They buy the version of themselves that exists after the transaction is complete. The master closer understands that they are not trading goods for money, but rather potential for reality. Success in this field requires a radical shift in mindset, where you stop seeing people as targets and start seeing them as partners in a value-creating journey. Inside the mind of every decision maker, a complex biological drama is unfolding at every second. The human brain is to be a master of the deal, one must be as skilled at the art of the buy as they are at the science of the sell. The professional buyer is a formidable force who understands that the flow of power in a room is determined by leverage. The most critical asset a buyer possesses is the power of the alternative. If you enter a negotiation feeling that you must have a specific item or a specific contract, you have already surrendered your leverage. The master buyer always maintains a walk-away position, rooted in the knowledge that there are always other options available in a global marketplace. Furthermore, the expert buyer understands the concept of the anchor price. The first number put on the table often dictates the entire psychological range of the negotiation. By setting a strong data-backed anchor, you frame the entire conversation in your favor before it has even truly begun. Additionally, the master buyer uses the flinch, a visible, physical reaction to a price proposal, to signal to the seller that their expectations are disconnected from reality. This psychological pressure often triggers an immediate, unforced concession from the other side, as the seller's fear of losing the deal outweighs their desire for a higher margin. Every negotiation follows a predictable rhythm, and the person who recognizes the rhythm controls the outcome of the day. It begins with the rapport phase, where trust is established not through business talk, but through shared humanity and empathy. Once trust is established, the discovery phase uncovers the true motivations of both parties. Often, what people say they want is not what they actually need to achieve their goals. A buyer might ask for a lower price when what they truly need is longer payment terms to manage cash flow or a faster delivery to meet a deadline. The master closer looks for these hidden currencies. By trading something that is low cost to you but high value to them, you can protect your profit margins while making the other party feel they have won a significant victory. This is the essence of the win-win philosophy. It is not about splitting the difference in the middle, but about expanding the pie so that both sides leave the table with more than they expected when they sat down. Objections are the milestones on the road to a successful deal, and they should be welcomed rather than feared. An amateur hears an objection and feels attacked or defensive. A professional hears an objection and feels encouraged. An objection is a clear signal of interest. If the buyer didn't care about the solution, they wouldn't bother to argue the details. The key to handling resistance is the method of acknowledgement, isolation, and resolution. First, acknowledge the concern to show you are an ally, not an adversary. Second, isolate the objection by asking if there are any other reasons, aside from the current concern, that would prevent the deal from moving forward. This prevents the buyer from moving the goalposts once the first issue is solved. Once the objection is isolated, you solve it by reframing the cost as a long-term investment. You must demonstrate that the cost of the problem, the wasted time, the lost revenue, or the ongoing stress is far greater than the price of the solution you are offering. When the pain of the problem finally outweighs the pain of the payment, the objection vanishes instantly. The close is not a single moment of high tension. It is the natural conclusion to a well-conducted symphony of communication. If you have built rapport, identified the pain, and presented a logical, emotional solution, the closes should be almost invisible. The most effective closers use the power of the assumption. They stop asking if the buyer wants to proceed and start asking how they would like to proceed. They move the conversation toward the post-purchase reality, discussing implementation dates, logistical preferences, or training schedules. By focusing on the future, you bypass the buyer's natural fear of making a final decision. Another powerful tool is the summary close, where you recap every benefit and value point the buyer agreed upon during the conversation. Hearing their own desires mirrored back to them in a single powerful list reinforces their confidence and eliminates hesitation. Finally, you must have the courage to ask for the business. Millions of dollars in deals are lost every year simply because the seller was too afraid to ask for the final commitment. In the final analysis, the ultimate goal of any transaction is not the commission check or the immediate savings. It is the reputation that remains long after the money has been spent. In our modern global economy, your reputation travels faster and further than your physical presence ever could. A master closer knows that a deal that is bad for the customer is ultimately a disaster for the seller. High-integrity selling creates a compound interest effect in your career. A satisfied client becomes a referral source, a powerful testimonial, and a repeat customer for decades. This reduces your future costs and builds a fortress of trust around your business. You must be willing to tell a customer no if your product is not the right fit for their specific needs. This level of radical honesty builds a level of trust that no marketing campaign or advertising budget can ever buy. The art of buying and selling is the art of building a world where everyone involved is better off than they were before the encounter began. Mastery is found in the balance of profit and principle, ensuring that every handshake is the beginning of a legacy.